I'm here with Tim Gleason, who is a good friend of mine and a former colleague. Tim has previously worked at Google for 14 years as an engineer and then became a manager. We worked together in a VR team and in Google's internal incubator, where I believe, were the only success story uh, of selling your
Not the
startup.
only, but definitely one of few.
One of few. Successful endeavors of actually running your startup to a point where it was bought by Google.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people that I've known these last few years. Literally, like I think I can say this, like you're at a level of like one of probably the most skilled engineers there is. They're at least when it comes to software, one of the most experienced. You're very modest, so you're not going to admit it, but uh, as an outsider, being in that tech world and seeing, the work that you were doing, you were clearly at a level uh, where people who understood what you were doing respected you a lot. So by proxy, I can gather that you are very good at what you do. You also acted in my movie, The Big Break, uh, and with no uh, formal training. Um, and that was a pleasure. And I'll just say
And it
quickly,
shows.
I'll say quickly that it started is that you were working as an AI engineer, and I came to you for advice on how to depict an AI character. And through a series of conversations, we decided that you would actually play the AI character, and you were phenomenal in it. And I'm excited for people to see it. But uh, we are going to talk today. I don't, this is we don't have a subject or a topic going into this one.
Well, I can tell you what I want to talk about
Okay.
because I'm coming from outside the industry, and I guess from the tech world in some sense. So, like maybe I just see things a little bit differently. But
I'm going to start the
um,
timer.
okay, timer started. I'm interested. I'm interested about the film business, the movie business, and there's a couple different aspects. But like, let's start with the very first thing, which is, do movie theaters make sense anymore? Or does it make sense to be making movies for theaters? And the reason I ask this is there are only as it gets cheaper to make movies, you can make more and more different movies. Is the right word film or movie? I don't
I
know
was
if one of
technically,
those is. Um,
I think technically movie, since most of these are not being shot on film, but film
okay, fair enough.
sounds
So
better.
so movies, I think with anybody can buy a cinema camera now.
Yeah,
Anyone you can get an editing program for free.
yeah.
You could actually make a reasonably good film movie for cheap, which means there should be more and more niches and more. Um, I guess maybe niches is the word, but there's only a fixed number of theaters, and there can't be more because it doesn't make sense to have
Yeah, I agree.
a lot of movie theaters. So the question is like, okay, probably you're always going to go to the theater for an Avatar, which
Right.
I went to watch the Avatar 3 that just came out because I could watch it in IMAX and 3D, and it was a neat experience. But like, generally speaking, should filmmakers, movie makers be thinking about the theater or something else? And before you answer, I just want to say that I think the answer to this changes a lot of the other things that happen. But
What do you mean that happened?
I mean,
How
the
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 ecosystem functions?
a lot of the industry is based around the idea of showing movies in theaters. I think like the
Yes.
whole point of a film festival is to see your movie in a theater and then try to get distribution for theaters. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not necessarily. I guess Netflix buys at film festival. So anyway, the first question is: now I have a great TV at home. I have 4K HDR TV at home. I have sound system. Why do I want to go to a movie theater? I guess is the question. Me personally, as a consumer.
Well, I mean, first I should say we've been talking about this idea probably for the past year and a half. And I
Yep.
think you really are the one who like you are like a big part of the reason that I'm even like having this podcast. I'm a part of this conversation of like non-D. And it really started with like I made the big break, and you like I think very much with an engineer's mind were like, what are you gonna do with this movie? And I was just like, well, I guess I was thinking of like the model of 20 years ago. I'm like, I'll enter it into festivals, hope it gets into a fest. But the more I thought about it, I was like, this is not a realistic path anymore. Like I the more I thought about it, the more you and I like started digging into like I mean, you actually built a prototype of a streaming service. Like we talked a lot about like what the solution could be. And I did a lot of research and was just kind of discovering like how terrible it is for low budget new filmmakers. There's just so few ways for them to get discovered. Um, you are an interesting case though, because like I like you go to the theater and like you saw F1 and I remember you like texted me and like this was a blast. So I feel like you are a person who both goes to these spectacle films at a theater, but you also like went to the Philadelphia Film Festival um and went to go see like a bunch of movies there. And I I think you are a rare like a a very positive rare case. Um my theory, I don't know if this answers your question exactly, but my theory is that I think people have more, there are more people that have that sort of appetite for these two different types of films. There's
Hmm.
just they're not going to go to a film festival. You are, more willing to seek that out, but the average person is not going to go out of their way to go to the Philadelphia Film Festival and see three movies in a row. So
Well,
yeah, I don't know if that addresses
but
what.
don't forget, I mean, one of the things is I happen to, oh, one of the things I happen to live near Philadelphia. What if I don't live near where there's a film festival?
There's
You
film
know,
festivals everywhere.
I go up to New York sometimes, and a lot of times, well, but maybe not at the quality. Maybe, I don't know. But and it's also, 1 week a year. If I had been gone that week, I wouldn't have been able to see it. If I go up to New York, I'll go out of my way to try to see a movie at one of the art theaters there. But like most people don't have access to that stuff.
Yeah, I
That's
think.
my that's my
Well, I don't think theaters. I think theaters are for art house films. It's just not a sustainable model the way it's been. And I think it's just like theater, it's not just about participation, it's about the upkeep. Theaters are very expensive to upkeep. And like you said, like you're set up at home. It's unless you're going to see F1 or Avatar, like it's not people aren't going for presentation. So what are they going
and it's
for?
hard to make an it's it's really hard for an independent filmmaker to make an F1 or an Avatar.
Right. Like, yeah,
Like
these are two different worlds.
it's 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 possible to make a small film on a shoestring budget. You've shown that, but like also it doesn't have 2 hours of CGI and all that kind of stuff in it.
I mean, I think first of all, like what this question is the crux of everything that's happening right now is that there is no real answer in there, and nobody knows the solution right now. And you pointed out one of the best examples I can think of, and I have not seen enough people talking about this film, but you told me to watch Listers. I think the full title is Listers Guide to Extreme Birdwatching or something like that. It's a documentary that was
Something
released
like that,
for
yeah.
free on YouTube. It's one of my favorite movies that I've seen this year. Um, like absolutely
And it's got
embodies.
multiple millions of views though.
Yes, but yeah, I don't know exactly what that translates in terms of revenue, but it's probably not like Hundreds of Beavers, which is what the example that a lot of people give from a couple years ago that like did actually play successfully in art house theaters. Um, but Listers like should absolutely have had that same life in the theaters or outside of YouTube at the very least, where it was able to monetize in a better way, I
I
think.
mean, maybe. I think the reason I'm asking about the theaters is because if you decide, well, we don't need the movie theaters, or like when I talk to someone like you, or I even see interviews of people in the industry, I think there's this very romantic idea of like my movie doesn't count if it hasn't been seen in the theaters. And obviously you can't win an Oscar if it hasn't, but like that's that's how people think about it. But my kind of sense of it is that in tech we would talk about how things scale. We'd say like, oh, that doesn't scale.
Yeah.
The sort of current the way the things work if you go to a film festival, there can only be so many film festivals. There can only be so many buyers from these big media companies. And so when you have, I think we decided that something like 4,000 full-length features are submitted to Sundance every year.
Yeah, I actually pulled up like
Like
our
4,000.
uh
How many are there enough buyers for 4,000 films, even if they were all fantastic?
17,000
And I think the answer is
submissions,
no.
but those are shorts. There's, yeah, 4,410 submissions to Sundance of features. That was 2024.
There- And how many movies could possibly be shown in a theater of
Yeah.
those? Like
I think yeah,
every person lives within maybe a half hour of 15 different screens, and you have to show a movie once a week. So like even at the very most, I can't do the math. What's that? 500? At the very most, it's like you could show 750 different movies a year, typically in the range of somebody, if no movie lasted longer than a week and no movie was on more than one screen.
so like I mean I think this is one of those times. I like, I have enough like film experience and enough tech. I was in tech for long enough to like I think learn a lot from that type of thinking that I think a lot of filmmakers lack, and it's really, I think, adapting quickly and thinking about scalability. I think, they're filmmakers, the type of filmmakers that we're talking about, uh, are, they consider themselves artists, and
Mhm.
that comes with certain, subjective qualities like nostalgia and emotional connections to certain things. And the same thing happened when there was the switch from film to digital. Like I imagine it's something that you probably didn't really think about a lot or like feel, but like for when I was in film school, there were like two camps, and it was like, there were the people who are like, we should absolutely not embrace digital. And it's like looking back, it's like what a joke. Uh,
But I find it, you still, even today, you see directors saying, like, well, it was really important for me to film this on film and not
yeah,
use digital. And to me, I'm like, at the end of the day, that film gets scanned and it's distributed digitally most of the time anyway, right? And I'm sure there's some difference. Like, I'm not smart enough to know the difference, but I find it hard to believe that it really matters. That's I'm a tech person, not an artist. That's the
yeah.
difference.
Yeah, it's a small camp of like, I think like it's, the Christopher Nolan and Paul Thomas Anderson fighting to shoot on IMAX and screening it. Like, yeah, I don't, that's like a long, digital has long conquered, that's the current one though, I think, is theaters. Theaters, they just need to be completely rethought, and I think it's going to be really hard,
Mhm.
and it's going to take a lot of time for the film community to embrace it. I don't know how it's going to play out exactly, but I think part of one of your questions in your email was like, is streaming the end game? Is that what you put?
Well, so I to me, again, I'm not a filmmaker. I don't know anything. I really, literally know nothing,
It's not.
except for the fact that I come from the tech industry where, we spend a lot of time talking about business models and startups and stuff like that. And to me, there's this kind of like logical progression. If you start thinking, well, if I'm an independent filmmaker, do I focus on a movie theater or do I focus on some sort of streaming thing? And I think that changes a lot of how I think about things. And so I think there's like this, at least in my mind, there's this progression. You say, well, like, does it actually make sense to target a movie theater? And my opinion, knowing absolutely nothing about anything, as clear as I can be, is that it's probably not pragmatic to think about like, well, my movie's going to be shown in a theater. It's like I'm going to make a movie and people are going to see it, but they're probably going to watch it on their TV or on their computer or on their phone. But then once you, if you accept that that's true, which it might not be, then like it leads to other questions. Well, does the streaming industry, is the streaming industry like you said, is it the final end game? Because to me, I find like things like Netflix and everything else to be, to me, the incentives are backwards, the business model is backwards for a user. I mean, for them, they're making lots of money, but like Netflix's goal is like a gym. They're like a gym.
Yeah.
The more subscriptions they can get, the better. The less actually you watch, the better it is for them. It costs them money when you watch something. So all they want is enough to keep you. Their incentive is to keep you subscribed, but spend as little as possible on streaming or in content. And I suspect that's why you see things like, well, here's Stranger Things, which everyone's going to keep their subscription for, but we're going to release a new series every 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like they're deciding what movies they show. I'm not deciding. I can see which ones I want to watch, but if I mean, my personal opinion, if you go to Netflix, is like 90% of the content there is just awful. Like there's just
Yes.
it's just like filling up their library, so you have something to like
Yeah.
skim through and not find something to watch.
I
And
hate
I
that.
think
Yeah.
I honestly think that's the incentive for them. And so the question then is like, okay, if you think that theaters are not the thing, are not the future, because again, not to go back in time, but like if you look at the number of tickets sold, like in the United States, it's been going down. It's been
Yeah.
trending down. And now it went down really deep during COVID and kind of recovered some, but the trend is still down long term.
Yeah.
So people are spending more money on entertainment because they're paying whatever $20 a month for Netflix and $20 a month for HBO Max, but they're going to the theater less. So okay, if
And
it's not the movie theaters, is it streaming? Is your goal in life to, as a filmmaker, to make something that you can sell to Netflix or you can sell to HBO Max? To me, that also feels like a tough.
I think that window,
But I'd like to hear your opinion on that stuff.
well, I think I want to get as much of your perspective out of this as possible. Um, and I mean, I think you're hitting all the right points, and it's like you're looking at it from the right perspective. From I think even when we talked about this like a year ago, like I was very clouded about it, but now I can see it much more clearly. I think there was a window when you did try to make it for Netflix. I think that window's closed because they no longer want to put out good content. Maybe just enough for like to get Oscars and but they literally don't exactly what you said is like they want to dumb down content so that they can just lower the bar and just keep
I mean,
putting out.
even yeah, even if the reality isn't quite as cynical as my take, where it's like they really don't want you to watch stuff. The reality is Netflix wants 10 billion viewers, and that means like they need to target the sort of lowest common denominator of people. Not saying that they're unsophisticated viewers, but like if you are maybe more sophisticated, you know, uh, film lover, movie lover, or you like particular niches, you know, chances are you're not going to be fulfilled by a company that's targeting literally everybody.
Yeah. I think I want to spend these last few minutes wisely. I think
Are we
when
already
you
running out of time?
yeah, it
Oh,
goes
because
fast.
I think the crescendo is what's coming.
Well, I think uh when we kind of developed this streaming service, well, let me first address what I think about theaters. I've written about like micro cinema distribution. I think that is going to be the future, but it's probably going to take like a decade. I do think like theaters, the upkeep is just too much, but I do think people want those shared social experiences, and I think it will happen. It's just going to happen at venues. It's going to look more like trivia or karaoke and not like going to the theater. That's my what I think. But I think what we kind of were like trying to figure out when we were making like I mean, it was really you. You built a prototype of a streaming service by yourself.
Hmm. So
Um,
be careful about saying streaming service because I think this is the key of what we're talking about.
but
Because my
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to say like the things that I think we addressed that are key to all
Yeah.
of this is discovery and one of the biggest things. And I think it's the most important. And because what my theory is that there are a lot of people who want good content. Uh and I was just talking to my mom the other day and she watched like the 4 hour like documentary about P. Diddy. And I was just like on in what planet does my mom like I was like, it's only because there's nothing else. There are no other options. So I think if there was a platform that had good options, that would change everything. And I know that you kind of suggested like, well, what if there is nothing that's that great or worth watching? And I think the point is that
Hmm.
if that platform exists, the good content will then come because filmmakers will know, oh, like it's worth making something because I have a chance at it making a career.
I, I think so. And I think like I like we're talking about something that other people don't know what the context is. But like my logical again, know nothing about anything. I really literally know nothing about anything. But if I logically think about it, it's like movie theaters, maybe not the right target for an independent film. Netflix, maybe not the right target. What does that mean? Like, how does that change the way a filmmaker thinks about making a film? And in my opinion, it's like the way the internet works, the way distribution works, the way streaming works, all that stuff is like kind of trivial to do in a lot of ways. And so the question is like, does the filmmaker now own their own film? And is it more of a business than like an art? And I want to be careful about saying that because it's always art, but like my sense of it is, you make a film and you hope to sell it, and then once you sell it, you wash your hands of it. It's not yours anymore, really.
Yeah, that's
But like
the old model.
if however many years ago, 10 years ago, Apple opened an app store on their iPhone, and suddenly like a one-person developer could make an app and own it. Like you didn't have to be a big company, you couldn't whatever. As long as you made the best app, and there's a gazillion apps on there, you upload it, Apple takes 30% or whatever. Um, Same thing with Steam. Steam became this famous thing for distributing games, and you used to, and in some cases, I think you still do. If you're a game company, you make a game, but then you try to get a distributor. But a small independent gamer can make a game and put it on Steam. And so the question is there a world for basically self-distribution via the internet? And how do you do it? And I think that was a thing that we've been talking about for a while. And to me, it seems like the obvious next step. But again, I'm going to reiterate as many times as I can. I know nothing.
Well, you're one of the smartest people I know. So that's not true. We hit our 20 minutes, but I want to just
Oops.
I've talked a lot about Steam as an example, and I guess maybe I'll just leave it with this one last like kind of question to you. Um, like look at Minecraft or Stardew Valley. I don't know that Minecraft utilized Steam in that way, but let's say Stardew Valley, one person developer, hugely successful. Um, is there Listers? I think, maybe not that specifically, but a movie like Listers could certainly have an appeal
Mhm,
like Stardew Valley. So do we
mhm.
just need a Steam? Like from your perspective, like what needs to be built to fix this?
I mean, I think there's a world where something like a Steam is the thing, but everything is about network effects, right? If you build it, no one's going to come to it because there's no content. No one's going to put their content on it because no one comes to it. And so it's a chicken and egg thing. And all these things, like Steam, happened to be the first at the right time, and but there's probably been a million game stores that have come and gone. You know, so I think that I suspect that it's probably something that'll happen at some point. But who does it at the right time and gets lucky? I don't know. It needs to go viral. The filmmakers need to want to put their film on there, and people want to go there to see movies. And I think what you said about discovery is a really huge point. If you go there and you don't know what you want to watch, going to help you find something that you want to watch, it's worth watching, I think is the big thing. But for me, the key to that business model is it has to be pay per view,
Yeah.
because otherwise I think you run into all the same problems that everything else has. Um, and have people been conditioned to not pay per view digitally? Is it like, well, do I just pay my subscription or not? And certainly if it's a subscription service, no one's going to be like, oh, I want another subscription service that has nothing on it. So that's my general feeling, but I'll say for the 10th time, I don't know anything about the industry. It's just an outsider's perspective.
Well, all I can say is since you and I started talking about this over a year ago, there's now a dozen of these types of streaming services that are trying to do
Yeah.
what we tried to do. And I hope you put your voice in the mix and that the right people seek you out and that you're like, you really had your finger on the pulse about this before I did, and I'm immersed in the film world. So I think you have more to offer than you realize. But it's that's our time. Thank you so much, Tim. What are we call what is this topic? What is this episode?
An outsider's perspective on the film industry,
All right. All right, I like that.
on the film business, maybe
Industry.
on the independent film business.
On the independent film business. All right. An outsider's perspective on the independent film business. All right. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.